Listen up. When a man starts being mean and getting easily irritable by you, watch out. He's cheating.
Now, people, the parliamentary opposition is counting its calls for the Integrity Commission to update the country on its continued delay in certifying the statutory declarations of Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Mr. Holness told journalists last month, while on his campaign trail, that he was written by the Integrity Commission and was still in dialogue with the anti-corruption body in relation to his declaration for 2021 and 2022. But speaking in the Senate on Wednesday, during a heated exchange with Acting Senate President Charles Sinclair, Opposition Senator Peter Bunting reiterated the opposition's call for the Integrity Commission to speak on the delay.
Mr. President, the annual budget debate is more than a bookkeeping exercise. The budget of the government, like any budget, Senator Webby, is really at its core a statement of priorities. And so perhaps the reason why, even though it's a money bill, it still comes to the Senate to be debated is because those figures in the Big Yellow Book and in the various other publications are really just these priorities translated to numbers. It reflects the policies, the programs, the practices of each administration. The opposition's contributions will critique the government's priorities and performance, and also it's an opportunity to propose alternatives. Now, last week, the leader of the opposition was not allowed to complete his presentation. One opinion writer in the daily newspaper said, Tuesday, March 19th was a dark day for Jamaica's democracy. End quote. The government used its large majority to rob the House of a quorum and tried to rob the leader of the opposition of an opportunity to complete his presentation. We know that in reality that backfired. We know that in reality it perhaps drew more attention to that section of his presentation than it would have otherwise received. However, I believe that the Hansard, the official record of parliamentary proceedings, should include that section of his presentation, as if I were to quote the Most Honorable Michael Manley, he would say that scholars yet unborn should have the opportunity to make their own assessment and to draw their own conclusions of the performance of this generation's leaders and parliamentarians. So therefore, I'm going to use some of my time today to complete that section of the opposition leader's presentation, which he was unable to complete in the House. Sorry? I'm reading it for the Hansard. When you are making your contribution, you decide how to use your time. You know, I know that the truth hurts. I know that the truth hurts and you don't want to hear it. But the truth may be an offense, but it's not a sin. So I'm going to pick up at the start of that section. It was titled Good Government in National Life. Change at a national level must focus on good governance. In this modern era of pervasive information sharing and communication, good governance is increasingly essential to maintain the people's trust and confidence in our democracy. Citizens are demanding that their leaders uphold the highest standards of accountability, transparency, and trustworthiness. All the measures that have been outlined for implementation will only be possible if we change the approach to governance that now exists. I leave you with, and I'm quoting from the opposition leader's presentation, I leave you with the ways, means, quality, and spirit of the change in governance that we commit to. Good governance isn't merely a set of ideals. It is the foundation upon which an equitable and just society is built. We are in an increasingly low-trust environment. We are in an increasingly low-trust environment. Since this JLP government came to office in 2016, no less than 8 ministers have been forced to resign or have otherwise been sanctioned.
Senator Bunting.
Yes?
No, Senator Bunting.
Yes?
We are here debating what is entitled the bill, Consolidated Fund to the Service of the Year ending on the 31st of March 2025. And Senator Bunting, what I ask you to do, and I'm asking all senators on both sides today, that we're going to contain our speeches to what is relevant to what is before us. Relevant to what? Relevant? No, no. You notice that, Senator Bunting, I did not interfere when you started, with your broad commentary. But then you are going into an area that I'm saying that you are now transgressing into an area that is not relevant. So, Senator Bunting and members on both sides, stick to the relevance of what is before us. Confine, as is set out in Standing Order 35-1, to what is the subject under discussion. All right? Good. You heard what I said? He spoke about... all right, Senator Fraser Binns, you are sitting and you can't speak to me whilst you sit. All right? Senator Bunting.
Mr. President, that's why I started my presentation saying that a budget is a statement of priorities. We cannot confine ourselves to the numbers. We have, because those numbers represent
Senator Bunting,
policy.
Senator Bunting,
We cannot
Senator
ignore
Bunting,
good
I am
governance.
Senator Bunting.
No,
I'm not going to get into an
No,
argument
Mr.
with
President,
you.
You cannot tell me
I
the
will tell you
content
what,
of my
and I will tell any
presentation.
member, whether it is on your side
No,
or
you-
on the
you-
government
no.
side, that you are going to confine your presentation to what is contained in the bill before us. All right? Thank you. Thank you.
The bill before us covers every aspect of government. Every aspect of government. It covers the Auditor General. It covers the Clerk of the House. It covers
Senator Bunting.
the Integrity Commission.
Senator Bunting.
Every
Continue,
crevice
and
corner of government
where I
is covered
rule,
in this bill.
where
So I am going to speak on anything that is covered by that bill. Everything that is covered in this book. And if you want to muzzle me, you're going to have to take me out of here. You can shut off the thing, but you can walk out and remove
Senator
a quorum.
Bunting.
Do whatever you want. But
Senator
it
Bunting.
is my contribution. I am speaking to this book which covers every aspect of government.
Senator Bunting, continue. Where you go outside of 35-1, then I will rein you in. All right? Contain your presentation to what is before us. Thank you.
I decided. Mr. President, the move in 2020 to take away the chairmanship of most parliamentary committees from the opposition has weakened that mechanism of holding the government to account for this budget. The maneuvers to delay the tabling of reports from the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission remains a contentious matter. We had a development on that just yesterday. And really, all of that, all of those reports concern how the executive is spending this budget, every dollar in this big yellow book. So don't tell me that it is not relevant. Don't tell me that.
I determine what is relevant, Senator.
No, you don't.
I determine.
No, you don't.
Very well.
No, you don't. You can come and try with that bullying tactic.
Let us see. Let us see, Senator Bunting.
You don't determine
Senator Bunting,
my contribution. I decide
no, sir.
what is relevant.
I determine what is relevant.
No, you don't.
Okay.
No, you don't.
Well, when I make the ruling, you will see.
You can try and use that to muzzle. You can try and use that to muzzle me, but you're not preventing me from speaking.
I don't think he learned from the folly and the fallacious statement that he made in St. James.
The maneuvers to delay the tabling of reports from the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission remain a contentious matter, especially since the legal opinion on which the delay is purportedly based has been withheld from parliamentarians and the wider public. It is interesting, and I pause and move from my reading. It is interesting that the Minister of Finance spent a great deal of time in his contributions, which I suppose you will now tell me is not relevant. Spent a great deal of time defending the Speaker and her refusal up to yesterday to table the Auditor General reports, the Auditor General's reports. It is interesting. He spent a great deal of time in his closing yesterday. He even went on all angles last week. But thankfully, we have strong, courageous public officers who stand up to bullying. And when these reports were sent back to Parliament yesterday and eventually tabled, what do we see? These reports covered two agencies that are within the portfolio of the Minister of Finance. These reports cover, in one case, the Tax Administration Jamaica, which has been paying rent or lease for the last 4 years, which had run up to $350 million and counting. That was up to last year, on a building which they have not yet occupied. They also mentioned another one. This was in Greenville, in Manchester. They also mentioned another one in St. Mary in Anota Bay, where the MP, didn't say an MP, a former MP, it said the MP, similarly, in a company, through a company associated with him, is the landlord. And similarly, millions of dollars spent on a building which was not occupied. Perhaps that is why the minister was so defensive, protective of the Speaker who was holding back these reports, which clearly are not, let me say no more than they're not flattering. They're not flattering to the leadership. They're not flattering to the leadership of the ministry, of the Minister of Finance. It reminds us, quite frankly, of another report which was sent directly to him this time and which was never read but put in a cabinet. But we will get to that. So let me return. We already had the bullet that dealt with the walkout, and that was covered. But the next bullet had addressed directly the failure to disclose the identity of the so-called...
All right, Senator Bunting. Senator Bunting. 35-1 of the standing order. That you will confine your presentation to what is relevant to the motion that is before us, bill or amendment, and confine your observations to the subject under discussion. That's 35-1. So we're talking about relevance. I can take you further into standing order 35. 35-2. Because where you are going to go is not an area that I'm going to facilitate. Because what you are going to be doing, sir, what you are doing is that you, standing in the Senate, is going to want to cast aspersions. What? Yes, sir. In relation to persons who are members of either chamber under 35-5, right? So, Senator Bunting, you're not going to go down there this morning with me, all right?
So what
Very
are you
well.
going to do?
Because you will see, sir. You will see. So I'm asking you to be relevant to the bill that is before you. All right.
Mr. President, you know, it is those of us who have been in the House, which spends much more time on this same appropriations bill, will know that in standing finance committee, any member can ask any question of the government, because every part of the government, every ministry, department, and agency is covered in this book. And every commission of parliament is covered in this book. And I want to speak now to the Integrity Commission, which is a commission of this parliament and whose budget is included in this book.
Yes.
Right? That Integrity Commission has... That Integrity Commission has reported that there are 6 MPs who are under investigation for illicit enrichment. I have not pointed at any MP.
Senator Bunting, in relation to what you are speaking about, it's a matter that they have said they are doing inquiry, investigation, as the case may be. Let that commission do whatever it is that they have to do. And if they submit a report and you get the opportunity at that time to discuss that issue, but you cannot come here, sir.
But you did not allow
You
me
can
to finish.
no. You're not going to discuss. You're not going to discuss that this morning.
Mr. President, I
Mr.
am merely urging
Mr.
the
President,
Integrity Commission to complete
Senator
their
Bunting,
investigation
Senator
and make a
Bunting,
report.
Senator Bunting. Senator
What is
Bunting.
wrong with urging the Integrity Commission to complete their investigation
Senator Bunting.
and make a report?
That's not what you are doing.
You can't tell me what I was
Because
about
I've
to
heard
say.
enough of what you have said. Senator Bunting. All right? I'm going to bring your attention. I'm going to bring your attention.
Mr. President,
Senator Bunting.
you are no.
Senator Bunting, I am going to bring your attention. I'm going to bring your attention. Senator Bunting, I'm going to bring. Well, you will see what happens down there too. Senator Bunting, I'll bring your attention to 43.1. All right? Of the standing order.
Oh, I thought you were going to share it with Refresh House. Yes, go ahead. Mr. President, continuing on Integrity Commission, the Prime Minister's statutory declarations of assets, liabilities, and income have not been certified and published by that Integrity Commission for successive years. We are asking that the Integrity Commission make a report, a full report to Parliament on that issue so that this taint on the integrity of the government be addressed transparently. I now turn to the Financial Services Commission, the FSC, a part of this book. We know that many innocent investors, including Jamaica's iconic global track superstar, the Honorable Usain Bolt, were carried down in the scandalous SSL fiasco. And in August last year, the FID said that more persons were to be charged, and it was imminent. Since then, we have received, or the FID has received, a forensic audit report of SSL from Kroll, international firm that does these types of investigations. It cost taxpayers many millions and was delivered to the government months ago. We are calling that in the interest of transparency and good governance, that this report be released to the public. Jamaica will not accept a cover-up of this shameful debacle, which has tainted our country's reputation. And I remind this Senate that a report went to the minister from 2017. 2017. The report, I believe that he said that he never read, but went in his cabinet. 2017 or 2019, long before it became a scandal and collapsed. Jamaica is crying out for change in this area. We must translate good governance principles into tangible action that restores trust and confidence in our leaders and preserves our cherished freedoms and democratic way of life. Change means no more hiding the truth from Jamaicans, no more deception in official public communication. And you know, we often throw these terms around, like deception and deceptive. But when last week, under the signature of the Deputy Prime Minister, a release is sent out that says, as of today, as of today, and that is a direct quote, there are no Auditor General's reports that have not been tabled, at Parliament that have not been tabled, knowing full well that they'd been there from December and January and returned that very morning. But as of today, there are no attempting to rebut what had been said by the leader of the opposition. Now, whether you want to call it disingenuous, deceptive, or just lie, that was a disappointing attempt to cover up one of the most disappointing incidents in the history of our parliament.
That's right.
Change means putting transparent communication at the heart of good governance. It affirms that respect is due to those who elect governments and pay taxes. Our aim is to ensure that every voice is heard and to bridge the gap between leadership and the people. You know, Senator Hill, I want you to continue your style of painting everything as being hunky-dory.
Yes.
Please continue. Please continue. That is the sort of arrogance and contempt that caused you to lose the popular vote in the last local government election.
And get booted in St. Mary.
There, you spoke about no new taxes. And there, I'm happily going there. And because this is something that, you know, the government trumpets as if it should be celebrated. No, the fact is, most or much of the taxes collected are ad valorem taxes. GCT, SCT, customs duties, etc. You don't have to move the rate of tax to collect more tax. So you can have no new taxes, but much more taxes. And now, Senator Crawford, do you think this single mother with 3 children, do you think this single mother with 3 children, when she goes to the shop to buy food for the week, do you think the fact that she cannot afford it because it has no new taxes, but in actual fact it has more taxes based on the ad valorem base, do you think that makes a difference to her? That makes no difference to her. That makes no difference to her. The fact is, she has to find more money to cover the same amount of items for her children. She has to find more money for food, for transportation, for utilities.
Yes.
That is why the popular vote rejected the JLP government in the last local government election. And the fact is, the Minister of Finance said, oh, but the leader of the opposition had a table and he left out some years out of the table. Well, it's his presentation. He decides what he wants to use to support his arguments. You use whatever you want to use to support your arguments. But the fact is, every one of these numbers came from the fiscal policy paper published by your government. Every single one. And I'm not guessing here. I went and I checked. I got the fiscal policy papers for every single year from 2016-17 coming right back through to the current one. All the figures for tax collected, for increases over the prior year, for the GDP and tax, the tax calculation as a percent of GDP, every single one of those figures comes from a fiscal policy paper published by your administration. So here are the facts coming from your fiscal policy paper. In 2015-16, the final year of the last PNP administration, the tax collected was 411.8 billion. At the time, that represented 24% of GDP, 411. In this year, 24-25, it is projected that 924.3 billion will be collected in taxes. More than double, right? Much more than double. But if we now put that as a percentage of the GDP, because obviously the nominal GDP is growing, size of the economy, etc. But this puts it back on a proportionate basis. 28% of GDP is now being collected in taxes. This is from 24 to an increase of 28. That is as a percent of GDP. So we're taking more of the GDP in taxes. But they say it's no increase. The fact is, Mr. President, in just the last 4 years, the additional taxes that have been collected from the Jamaican taxpayer is collected, as I'm saying. I really don't think the single mother of three differentiates. She is earning in nominal dollars. She is earning in nominal dollars.
Sorry, Senator Bunting, just hold a second for me. Senator Abka Fitzhenley, Senator Hill, and Senator Samuda. There is a standing order. There is a standing order 40. And I'd ask you to just be quiet. If you have a response to what Senator Bunting says, then you will get your opportunity. Exactly. All right? So let the senator speak in silence, please. Thank you very much. Senator Bunting, continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, over the last 4 financial years, 2021-22 through 24-25, tax collections have increased by 419 billion. That is just the facts. That is coming from your fiscal policy paper. That is an increase of 66%. That is an increase of 66%. More than double the accumulated inflation over that period. But let's look at tax collection from the perspective of each Jamaican, Senator Crawford. Each Jamaican, including the single mother of three. Since this JLP government came to office, they have more than doubled the annual tax take from every man, woman, and child. In Jamaica, increasing it by a massive $190,000 per person. Per person, every man, woman, and child. To total $342,000 per person of taxation in this 2024-25 budget. To total, on average,
Sorry, Senator Bunting. Just look here. I am trying to hear Senator Bunting so that when he steps out of line, I can keep him in line. And I'm asking you, members on this side, as also Senator Crawford, if you can all be quiet whilst Senator Bunting is speaking, you will get your opportunity, you know. All of you will get your opportunity. So please, just be quiet.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to repeat, the taxes on every man, woman, and child in Jamaica have increased by a massive $190,000 per person to total $342,000 per person of taxation in this 2024-25 budget. And you know what is particularly regressive about these ad valorem taxes these consumption type taxes is that they're borne disproportionately by the lower income taxpayers. Somebody who is not earning a cabinet minister's salary will have to spend all they earn, or essentially 100% of what they earn to consume. They have no surplus to save. Those who are earning 20 million or 30 million, they are consuming a relatively small proportion of their income. So they're not paying that increased taxes. So it is an unjust and regressive. It is an unjust and regressive approach to taxation. And it is being borne the heaviest by those who can least afford it. Mr. President, so the government can continue to boast no new, but we know that there's much more taxes being borne by the Jamaican people. And we have a lot more persons coming to bat, and I'm not going to stay any longer at the crease. But I just want to draw your attention to some of the headlines in the last week. House in shambles. Travesty in the House. The erosion of our democracy. This one was published Tuesday, March 26th. And I just want to close by quoting from the final paragraph. Regarding the government, what we saw last Tuesday was, in my opinion, an egregious abuse of power. I have also observed suboptimal accountability and transparency, arrogance, disingenuity, gaslighting, deflection, and the censoring and censuring of the opposition leader. A rancid potpourri of features reeking with the stench of autocracy. Yes. Is this where we are heading? We should all be very concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Bunting.